We want to thank everyone for your timely submission in Q3. We thank you so much for your for getting those reports on a timely basis, and we hope you do the same thing for Q4. And just know the portal is open, so please go ahead and start submitting when you're ready. And for those that don't have any data, we encourage early submission, please. And just to note, the reporting window is open until 11:59 p.m. on January 30th, 2025. And so jump in if I misspeak on anything. Our goal today is to walk you through our normal process. We'll provide an overview of the quarterly reporting requirement based on the reporting guidance, and then we will walk you through the template and the submission process. We just want to alert everyone that we recently updated reporting guidance. That reporting guidance is available on our website, and it will be linked to this deck as well once we share that. And I think we've highlighted what we updated in the annual reporting. I think we just had 2 updates in the quarterly, and Sue will highlight those updates when she gets to those. Please feel free to jump in with questions throughout this process. We will also add our mailbox in the chat if you want to send any questions through the formal process to get written responses. I will stop talking. I probably left some stuff out, but I'm sure Sue and Raisa will fill those in and turn it over to Sue Chang. She will walk over the overview of the process. Grace will jump in and go through the templates and give you some good examples. And Jay will come in and provide an overview of how to submit, access your template, submit in the portal, and any other troubleshooting information best practices he will share with you. I will stop talking and I will hand this over, but just as a reminder, we will share this deck and the slides, and these training videos will be available for you to share with your other team members that are not available today. So that concludes my portion. Feel free to put questions in the chat. If you're shy, you can direct message me. Thank you, everyone. Hopefully this is a productive training and you take some good information away. And Raisa Moore will jump in. I forgot to introduce our girl. She will jump in at the end to provide some good Q&A. So Raisa will, it's the floating head you're seeing at the top. Thank you. I'll stop talking. Bye.
Okay. Thank you, Mima. So in today's training, I will provide an overview of the quarterly reporting requirements, and we'll cover some of the data elements on the quarterly report, and we'll also provide an overview of the unenrollment process. But I will start out with the first law on quarterly reporting. Thank you. The SSBCI capital reporting guidance sets out reporting requirements for jurisdictions that receive SSBCI funds. And to facilitate your reporting requirement, Treasury has created customized template for each jurisdiction, and we pre-populate some of the data elements, which Grace will go into detail later. If any of the pre-populated data is incorrect, such as your program name or your allocation amount, please let us know before you submit your quarterly report. There are 6 data elements to the quarterly report template that the jurisdiction should complete. They are shown in this slide. We actually left off the budgeted, what is that? There's 1 second to apologize. Contracted entity.
For contracted entity.
Yeah. Budget off of this list because it's no longer required. It's on the Q4 report template, but you do not need to report that for Q4. Okay, so we encourage jurisdictions to review the guidelines and the guidance on specific data to report. Okay, moving on to the next slide. Okay, quarterly reports must be submitted to Treasury 30 days after the end of the quarterly reporting period. For Q4 report, the portal will be is open for submission, started on January 1st and closes on January 30th. We encourage and recommend jurisdictions submit before the January 30th deadline. If you have any questions related to the portal or the template, please reach out to your outreach manager as soon as possible. And to avoid any issue with uploading or accessing the portal, please do not wait until the last day to submit. We will send out email reminders to all participating jurisdictions are required to report at the beginning of the submission window, and we'll also send additional reminders prior to the deadline. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. Each jurisdiction is required to submit a quarterly report starting with the first full calendar quarter following your executed allocation agreement with Treasury. So that means for jurisdictions that sign allocation agreement in the third quarter of 2024, your jurisdiction will be required to report starting in fourth quarter, which covers EOT data through December 31st. For those jurisdictions that signed the allocation agreement in Q4 of 2024, your jurisdiction is not required to report until Q1 2025. And so therefore the template for jurisdiction that signed allocation agreement in Q4 are not yet available in the portal. However, for jurisdictions that are required to submit for Q4, the Q4 templates are available for download, and the deadline closes. The deadline for Q4 closes on January 30th. Okay, moving to the next slide, please. Thanks. In this slide, we want to go over some reporting guidelines on expanded, obligated, or transfer, commonly referred to as EOT. The first point I want to clarify is that for quarterly reporting, you are reporting EOT for SSBCI funds only. Private capital is not reported on the quarterly report. So starting on the left for expanded, for transaction to be considered expanded, SSBCI funds must be dispersed to a specific borrower in a direct lending transaction, or dispersed to a lender as part of set aside to cover loan guarantee, collateral deposit, or purchase participation for a specific transaction that has closed. For a cap transaction, SSBCI funds must be dispersed to a lender to cover the federal contribution to the cap reserve account. For VC and equity direct transaction, SSBCI funds must be directly invested in a specific business pursuant to an executed investment agreement. Okay, moving to the middle column, obligated. For transaction to be considered obligated, SSBCI funds must be committed, pledged, promised in writing to a lender or borrower as part of a loan participation to a specific borrower, or to a lender to cover loan guarantee or collateral support as part of a loan to a specific borrower. For loan credit program transaction, the key to distinguish expand from obligated is that for obligated transaction, the loan has not contractually closed, whereas for expanded transaction, the loan has closed. And for a direct equity transaction to be considered obligated, there should be investment agreement between the jurisdiction or its contracted entity and the investee committing the funds, but the funds have not been received by the business. For a VC fund investment to be considered obligated, there should be a commitment to a VC fund through a signed LP agreement, and the obligation is at the fund level. Okay, for last comments on transfer, the main thing to note for transfer is that there should be a documented need to fund a loan transaction or investment or to pay for allowable expenses. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Thanks. Okay, so program funds EOT should only include loans, investment, and funds to be used for 171 fees for services for portfolio companies. All other expenses are considered administrative and should be reported in the administrative cost field. Okay, moving on to the next slide, reporting VC fund commitments. Okay, so this slide is relevant to jurisdictions with VC fund program. So if your jurisdiction has a VC fund program, please pay close attention to this slide and let us know if you have any questions. For a VC fund transaction, the total SSBCI commitment includes both the program allocated EOT, including 171 fees, and administrative costs. The program allocated commitment amount, including 171 fees, should be reported under program allocated EOT. The commitment capital for administrative costs should not be included in program allocated EOT. only the expended BC admin costs should be reported under funds EOT for administrative costs. Okay. We put together an example of one fund, the ABC Venture Fund, on this slide to show how a jurisdiction will report the ABC Venture Fund on a quarterly report. Okay, on the left side is a breakdown of the ABC Venture Fund, and the right side is the quarterly report. Starting with the breakdown on the left. Okay, so the ABC Venture Fund has an SSBCI commitment of $1 million. This $1 million commitment is comprised of program allocated EOT for investment, including 171 fees for $964,000, and plus estimated fund operating expenses of $36,000, totaling. So the sum of those two total $1 million commitment. The amount that the jurisdiction should report on the quarterly report under program allocated EOT is $964,000, which is represented by 1 on the slide and marked in purple on the right side for the program allocated EOT. Next, ABC Venture Fund expended $5,000 of the $36,000 estimated operating expenses for fund formation and legal expenses in the fourth quarter, marked as green on the breakdown and the quarterly report. The expanded administrative costs for $5,000 should be reported in the fund's EOT for administrative costs and not the estimated operating expense of $36,000, which is the VC commitment capital for administrative costs. We've summarized the example for this jurisdiction to reference and to report on QR on the left screen on this slide. If you have any questions on this, please do not hesitate to reach out to your outreach manager or inbox for assistance on reporting. Okay, we can move to the next slide. Thank you. Program income. Okay, program income is defined as gross income received by the jurisdiction that is directly generated by SSBCI support activity or earned as a result of SSBCI funds during the SSBCI program period. Any interest earned on idle funds that have not been invested or lent to a small business count as program income and should be reported on the quarterly report. And when income is generated by an approved program that includes non-SSBCI funds, jurisdiction should report only the pro rata share of the income that is attributable to SSBCI. All right. Lastly, I want to point out that in addition to allocated funds, jurisdiction may use program income to pay administrative expenses. Okay, that should cover program income. Thank you. Okay. Jurisdiction, as I mentioned earlier, jurisdiction may use program income to pay administrative expenses, but provided that there is sufficient program income to use. For a jurisdiction that use program income to pay administrative expenses, it's important to know how to properly report this program income used for admin expenses on the quarterly report. Let's start with an example. During the quarter, this jurisdiction earned interest on idle funds of $150,000 and used $250,000 of cumulative program income to pay administrative expenses. The jurisdiction would report the interest earned of $150,000 in the current quarter under program income. This is shown in blue on this slide. The $250,000 of program income that is used to pay administrative costs would be reported as a negative amount under both program income and admin expenses EOT line via an adjustment on the quarterly report. This is shown on the slide in red. Okay. Okay. If you have any questions on how to report adjustments, please reach out to your outreach manager or send an email, send your questions to the inbox. Before I move on to the next slide, I just want to highlight that if admin expenses were paid using program income, those admin expenses, in this example, the $250,000 cannot be counted towards the 80% EOT requirement for subsequent tranche requests and should not be reported on the disbursement request form. Okay, moving on to the next slide on reporting recycle funds. Okay. The most important thing to keep in mind is for reporting recycle fund is that SSBCI funds are only considered recycle funds once the funds are redeployed into new loans or investment. Until the funds are redeployed into new loans and investment, jurisdiction should hold any return SSBCI invested capital. However, any interest earned on the return capital prior to redeployment must be reported as program income. So let's walk through an example for reporting recycle funds. First, jurisdiction Z received a $50,000 repayment of principal in Q3. Of that $50,000, the jurisdiction recycles $25,000 into a new loan in the beginning of Q4 and maintains the remaining $25,000 in an interest-bearing account, earning $800 during the quarter. How should the jurisdiction report this on their Q4 quarter report? The jurisdiction should report the $25,000 under recycle funds EOT in the current quarter column for Q4 report. This is a portion that was recycled into a new loan. The jurisdiction must also report the $800 interest income under program income in the current quarter column for Q4. There are two important elements to note here. First, the full $50,000 in repayment principal received in Q4 is not considered recycled. Only the amount that was actually recycled into new loans should be reported as recycled. And any interest earned on SSBCI funds should be reported as each quarter as program income. All righty. That wraps up the recycle funds. Thank you. For jurisdictions that are reporting for the first time, you should not have any adjustments to report, but you may have adjustments in the future quarter. And the reason for adjustment may include removing an obligated loan or investment that is no longer expected to close, correcting a clerical error such as transposition of a number, or when directed by SSBCI. If your jurisdiction has large adjustment or swings from one quarter to another, we recommend letting us know before submitting your quarter report. And if you have adjustments to report, please provide an explanation for the adjustment in the additional information section of the quarter report. On this slide, we have listed some example you may consider when providing your providing your explanation. While there's no character limit, the explanation should be brief and to the point and should include an explanation regarding the full amount of the adjustment. Okay, next slide, please. All right. Okay, so for jurisdictions that are reporting for the first time and have expended obligated transfer from a quarter prior to their first quarterly reporting period, jurisdictions should report the prior quarter activity along with the current quarter activity in the current quarter field. For example, if a jurisdiction executed allocation agreement in January and EOT funds of $100 for the LPP program, and during the second quarter, which is the first time the jurisdiction will be reporting the jurisdiction EOT funds of additional $200, for the second quarter reporting, the jurisdiction should input $300 in the current quarter field. Another example would be if a jurisdiction has program income from a quarter prior to the required reporting period, the jurisdiction should report the prior quarter income along with the current quarter program income in the current quarter field of the quarter report. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, in the next two slides, I will provide an overview of the unenrollment process. A potential non-compliant transaction may be identified by either the jurisdiction or Treasury. The Treasury's written approval is needed before jurisdiction can unenroll a closed non-compliant transaction. And just to clarify, closed transaction means expanded transaction. If your jurisdiction identifies a potential non-compliant closed transaction, please reach out to your outreach manager prior to taking any action. Whether the non-compliant transactions identified by the jurisdiction or by Treasury, the first step in the unenrollment process is for the jurisdiction to provide Treasury with an unenrollment request letter and support and supporting document, which we've referred to as Attachment A. Attachment A is an Excel template provided by Treasury to gather information related to potential non-compliant transaction, such as provider information, amount of SSBCI funds involved, and the description of the issue. The unenrollment request letter should state how the non-compliance was discovered, what internal controls measure the jurisdiction has taken to mitigate the particular risk of non-compliance, and how the jurisdiction proposed to replenish the SSBCI account. Treasury will then review the request letter in Attachment A and confirms Treasury's agreement by providing the jurisdiction with a conditional approval email. The conditional approval email will ask the jurisdiction to provide the supporting documentation demonstrating that the jurisdiction has replenished the SSBCI account for the amount of the unenrollment. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. Once Treasury received the sufficient supporting documentation demonstrating that the jurisdiction has replenished the SSBCI account, Treasury will send jurisdiction an acknowledgement email. The acknowledgement email closes out the unenrollment process. When the unenrollment process is completed, jurisdiction should then report the unenrolled amount as an adjustment on the quarter report. While the unenrollment process is in process, the jurisdiction will be required to provide modified certification on the use of allocated funds when submitting your quarter report. The modified certification states that your jurisdiction is implementing its approved SSBCI program in accordance with program requirements, except for the identified non-compliant transactions highlighted in yellow on this slide. If you have potential non-compliant transaction and you don't see the modified cert language in Section 4 of the portal, please reach out to your outreach manager immediately, and we will work with you to change to a modified certification in the portal before you submit your quarter report. Jurisdictions can identify the modified cert in two places in the portal, on the Section 4 tab and at the top of the section. Both are shown here, circled in red. If you do not see the modified cert, you are submitting a standard certification. So please pay attention to ensure you are certifying the appropriate certification. Jay will cover the certification process in the portal later in the training. We just want to emphasize again to reach out to your outreach manager to discuss any potential non-compliant transaction. And I just want to also point out that Treasury's approval of any unenrollment and replenishment process does not preclude the OIG from conducting its own review. Okay, moving on to the next slide on quarter point tips. Thank you. On this slide, we put together a few quarter point tips that you may find helpful when you complete your quarter report. The quarter report contains data validations and conditional formatting, which Grace will show you later in the presentation. The most important thing to note is that please do not submit your quarter report if any of the fields are red. If you are unsure how to correct the fields that are red, please reach out to your outreach manager before submitting your quarter report. So I want to point out the first tip. That's want to highlight the first tip that's on this slide is for you to check that the sum of the program EOT and admin EOT do not exceed your cumulative disbursed amount. Basically, you should not be reporting more than what was dispersed to the jurisdiction. While the fields will turn red, the program EOT and admin EOT exceeds cumulative amount, but please check that before you submit your quarter report. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this is what should be my last slide here. Okay, so user will have a different level of access based on the assigned role in the portal, and Jay Flowers will be going over the different level of access in his demonstration later, but I just want to highlight two roles here. The most restrictive role is the account administrator, and the least restrictive role is the authorized representative role. The authorized representative role can view, download the template, upload a completed report and is the only user who can certify and submit report. If the user does not have an authorized representative role, an error message will appear, preventing the user from submitting your report. Okay, that should conclude my part of the presentation. Happy to take any questions. You can go off mute or feel free to drop your questions to me in the chat. I think I will. No one has questions. I will turn it over to Grace.
Okay, thank you, Sue, and hello, everyone. I'm going to be going over a demonstration of the Capital Quarterly Reporting template. So you should see that Excel on screen now. As Sue mentioned, a customized quarterly reporting template will be generated for each participating jurisdiction, and this is available on the Salesforce portal for you to download now or anytime within the next week or so. So it will be a one-page Excel report that you'll be asked to complete and submit, and it includes a variety of pre-populated and calculated fields, as well as some that are editable for you to enter your EOT information. So everything you see in gray on the screen is not going to be editable. That's what's pre-populated, and then these white cells is where you'll be able to enter your EOT information. So what's included on your quarterly report, starting up at the top here, is just going to be information regarding the reporting period. So for Q4 2024, the start date is 10/1/24, and the end date goes through 12/31/24. Here you can see the submission deadline for this report, which is the 30th of January 2025. And then you'll just see the name of your participating jurisdiction, and you can confirm that this is your customized report. The next section will cover program information, program allocated funds, and then this is where you'll enter your EOT information for each of your programs. There'll be a section on administrative expenses. This is reported at the aggregate across your entire jurisdiction. And then same for this section here, program income and cap charge-offs are also reported at the aggregate level. This is the additional information section where you can enter comments regarding your adjustments. And then finally, the last section will be regarding contracted entities. As Mayma mentioned at the beginning of the call, with the updates to the reporting guidance, contracted entity budget reporting is no longer required. So if you do have contracted entities, you don't need to fill out this section for Q4. And then starting next quarter in Q1 of 2025, this will be removed from the template. All right, so I'll go through a quick example of how to complete your quarterly report. So you'll want to start in this top section for each of your programs. You'll see your approved program names, the program type associated for each of those, the program administrator, and the program allocations. All of this information comes from your original application, or if you have had any modifications to your agreement with Treasury. If any of this information looks incorrect to you, please reach out and we can get that corrected before you submit your report. The only other thing that will be pre-populated in the template will be the cumulative as of prior quarter end if you have had a previous report where you reported EOT. If this is your first time reporting, then cumulative as of prior quarter end will be zeroed out for all of these sections. Okay, so let's go ahead and enter some data into the template. We'll start by entering our EOT, our expended, obligated, or transferred funds for our equity funds program. So we'll want to enter the dollar amount in the current quarter tab that has been expended, obligated, or transferred between 10/1 and 12/31. So for this program, let's go ahead and say we've spent or EOT'd $1 million. All right, you'll see that will populate into the current quarter tab where you just entered it. It will also sum up in the cumulative as of current quarter. Same thing, we'll move on to our next program and say we've spent 1.5 million there. You'll see once I enter that, I do get a pop-up notification letting me know that this is an invalid input and I have some sort of error. So the reason that I'm getting this notification could be for any of the 4 reasons listed here. But in this specific example, it is because our current quarter EOT is exceeding our program allocation. So if you only have $1 million allocated to your program, you'll need to EOT only up to $1 million. Again, if you have a modification or need to submit a modification, please reach out through your outreach manager. So we'll go ahead and cancel that and enter just the $1 million that we're allowed to EOT for this particular program. Okay, and then moving on to our third program, the loan guarantee program here. I'll show you what you can do to enter an adjustment. So let's say, previously we have reported $33 million EOT for this particular program, but we had an obligation that didn't close that we reported last quarter, and now it's not going to close. You can simply enter that amount in the adjustment column here. So let's say negative $5 million there in our adjustment. And you can see that will also flow to the cumulative as of current quarter, and that will reduce by $5 million, bringing us to $28 million. In addition to the adjustment, if you have further EOT for the current quarter, you can go ahead and enter that in as well. And we'll go ahead and just say 6 million there. Okay, so now across all of our programs, we have a cumulative as of current quarter of $36 million, which is 4 million under our 40 million that has been dispersed to us. In the last section of the approved programs, you can enter any recycled funding that you have. Again, just refer back to the slides where Sue spoke about how to ensure you're entering the recycled funding correctly. If you have anything that can be entered in the current quarter. And then same thing, if you have previously reported recycled funding but need to make adjustments, that can be done here as well. I will go ahead and move on to the administrative cost section next. So in this example, in the administrative cost section, you'll see we have direct administrative costs and indirect administrative costs. You'll have some pre-populated and calculated information here. The administrative cost threshold will show you the dollar amount of funds that you're allowed to expend towards administrative costs in your particular tranche. So the way it works is the first tranche, you can spend up to 5% of your funds on administrative costs. And then the second and third tranche, that is 3% of your funds. And this dollar amount will equate to that percentage of funds. So in this case, we have already spent $700,000 of our allowable $1.56 million in administrative expenses. Let's say that we need to spend another $1 million. We've had another $1 million in administrative expenses. You'll see if I try to enter that into the template here, again, I get that pop-up telling me that's not an allowable entry. And that is because, of course, we would be exceeding our administrative cost threshold. So as Sue mentioned earlier, one of the things that you can do if you have excess administrative costs or excess program income is to offset the administrative costs using your program income. So you can see in this example that previously we have reported $380,000 in program income. So let's say that we're going to use $300,000 of our program income to offset our administrative expenses. So what you'll want to do is enter negative $300,000 as an adjustment on the program income, and also enter that as an adjustment on your administrative expenses. Negative $300,000. All right, so you can see that will bring down your cumulative as of current quarter here on the administrative expenses, and it will allow us to expend that additional funding So we'll enter that million as needed on the administrative expenses. And you can see our total comes to 1.4, which is under that allowable amount. If you have additional program income that you have accumulated throughout the quarter, or if you have cap charge-offs, that can be entered here as well. So let's say we have 150,000 accumulated in the current quarter for program income. Right, so we're almost done with the report. The last thing that we'll need to do is enter some comments because we have adjustments. If you have any adjustments in your report, you are required to leave a comment as to why that adjustment is occurring. So looking over our report, we have two adjustments here. The first one is in our loan guarantee program. So loan guarantee program. We have an obligation that did not close for $5 million. Okay, so that will be a sufficient example for that particular comment. And then we also used our $300,000 to offset the administrative costs. So adjustment in program income and admin used program income to offset. All right, so that would be an allowable set of comments to explain the two adjustments that were made on the quarterly report. And as Sue mentioned, one good thing to check is just to make sure that the template looks approximately like this before you submit. So you don't want any red bubbles or any of those errors popping up. Ensure that your total allocated funds EOT plus your administrative expenses is less than your funds dispersed. So I'll go back really quick just to show you what that will look like if you're having an excess. Oh, hold on, it's not a great example. Let's do it here. Well, as you can see, the template is pretty locked down, so you shouldn't be able to do that too much. All right. Well, we've added some additional validations into the template, so you might be restricted from doing that. But just again, if any of the cells become highlighted in red, that may indicate that there's an issue with the reporting. So just make sure you get that cleaned up before you submit. And then once again, just to mention this contracted entity section, if you do want to report that for Q4, please do. If you have any contracted entities, their budgeted amount will be populated here. And if you need to make updates to their budgeted amount, you can go ahead and just override that number. And then once again, Q4 will be the last time that you'll see this contracted entity section on the quarterly reports. All right, that will complete the demo. Is there any questions? We have a couple questions in the chat. One is regarding the classification between direct and indirect administrative expenses. So I would just say there's a couple things you can do here. One tip is to look at the tooltips if you have questions about the data elements that are being collected. I would also go ahead and reference the reporting guidance and to be able to see those particular definitions. And then the next question was, do we add lines in the quarterly report under approved programs, SETI allocation, VSB, and SETI incentive? No, so you'll want to include all of that in aggregate. You don't need to break out your EOT for your particular subcategories of your disbursement. So your total potential allocation here will include all categories, SETI incentive, VSB, and your main capital allocation. So will your dispersed funds. And then, yeah, in your EOT, just total that all up. And then the last question I see in the chat is regarding equity funds programs. So it says, when, if any, should we use transferred? Okay, so that may apply during like the annual reporting or the disbursement request process, but for quarterly reporting, you're going to report aggregate expended, obligated, and transferred. So you don't really need to discriminate between the status of your particular transactions for the quarterly report.
And generally for the disbursement report, where you will indicate whether it's EOT on there or fund program, we consider once an agreement is executed with the fund, that will be an obligation, and any underlying actual investment in the small business will be reported and expended. So generally, we won't see a transfer depending on timing differences in a fund program, but we're happy to take that question offline if you need additional context. And Sue and Grace, jump in if you want to add anything else.
Anything else to add, Mima?
I'm sorry, Grace. I'm sorry, Sue.
No, I was just saying I have nothing else to add. It makes sense.
Okay.
On the quarterly report, it's EOT. So there's no distinction between the three for quarterly reporting. But on the disbursement request, you have to show it's expended, obligated, transfer. And as Mima mentioned, typically we don't see the transfer because usually there's no timing. Should be a timing difference, but typically we don't see that transfer. That's it.
Okay. Well, thank you. If you have further questions at the end, feel free to jump in. I will pass it off to Jay, who's going to give a demo of the portal.
Thank you, Grace.
Thank you, Grace. So now we're going to take a look at the portal and give a demo or walkthrough of downloading and submitting the quarterly reports inside of the portal. Before we get started, I am going to put 2 links inside of the chat, and these are links to our portal. The first one, they both end up eventually into the same position, but the first one is going to be to our landing page where you have to select the SSBCI program. The second one takes you directly to the SSBCI program homepage, and I'll show you that once we get started with the demo. So I am loading up my test environment, so it's going to give me about 30 seconds to a minute to get that fired up. While we do that, if anyone has not logged into the portal before or has not logged in since last quarter's report or in a while, we really encourage that you try to log in now and just let us know if you have any issues logging in. If you don't have a chance to try to log in now, we really encourage you to try to log on as soon as possible to get your quarterly report submitted. So if you have any issues, that we can clear those issues up well before the deadline. So it's going to be about 30 seconds more for the area to load up. And again, please try to log in now, and I will leave it open. And I know we just had some questions, but if you have any other questions in the next 30 seconds or so, please come off mute and ask those questions. Okay, looks like my demo area is working very quickly today. I'm actually ready to go. So if we don't have any other questions, I can move forward. And I will share my screen. And the first thing that you see when I share my screen, and Grace, are you able to see my screen?
Sure, Angie.
This call will be recorded.
Excellent. So the first link that I put into the chat will take you to this home splash page where you come down and you click on the SSBCI program. And then once you click on the SSBCI
This call
program,
is no longer being recorded.
it is going to take you over to where that second link will take you directly to our SSBCI program page. Once you're inside of this area, you will simply come down to Capital Program Reports, and you click on that on the left-hand navigation area, and that will open up your quarterly report table. Again, this is my demo area, so I have a whole bunch of quarterly reports listed. You may not have as many as I do, but we just ask you just to search for the one that is going to have your reporting window that's going to have October 1, 2024 through December 31, 2024, with a submission window of January 1, 2025 through January 30, 2025. And you should see a light blue pencil icon indicating that this record is able to be edited. So we would click on the first one is going to be for our standard compliant transaction. I'll do another demo of the modified or potentially non-compliant issues quarterly report submission. So we're going to go into the standard one first. And once you jump inside of the standard one, I'm just going to go over the navigation in here. We have a left-hand navigation where you can click through sections. You also have at the bottom of a page a back button if you're in section 4. And you're going to have a back button and a next button if you're in section 2 or section 3. Over on the right-hand side, we're going to have what we call a widget, which is going to give the status of your quarterly report submission. It's also going to give you jurisdiction. It's going to give you the reporting period, and it's also going to give you the deadline. So we're going to navigate back to section 1. And basically, section 1 gives you that same information in terms of the reporting period, and then also the submission deadline and a few instructions. You're going to have a link to the reporting guidance, the policy guidance, the report user guide, and then also the SSBCI information at Treasury inbox if you have any issues with either logging on or any issues with the quarterly report. We will move on to section 2. Section 2 is just the information for the implementing entity that we have on record. Again, this is a biotest environment, so you're going to see a bunch of information that is not tied to anything, but you will see your UAID, your entity name, and all the other stuff associated with the implementing entity. And we just ask that you verify that this information is correct. And if there are any corrections that are needed, please reach out to us at the SSBCI_information treasury.gov inbox. And we also ask that you include your outreach manager on any of these communications if you have any issues with either your implementing entity or logging in or anything about the quarterly report. Secondly, on this page, we have a contacts area. We put this contacts area because we realize that there may be someone in your organization that will be responsible for reporting, but not necessarily part of your application process. And we do have an area right here that has the word page where we're able to adjust the contacts that are in your account. So clicking on this word page takes us over to the COVID-19 Relief Hub. And once we get to the COVID-19 Relief Hub, we will have an introduction area where you're going to have a definition of the account roles. We're going to have a certification area. If this is the first time logging in and adjusting contacts, we will need you to log in or to give us allow us to let you alter. And this is just saying that you are the person that's able to add contacts or adjust contacts within the system. Once you have that, then this designation form option will pop up. And you would just click on the designation form, and then you have the area where you're able to adjust or add contacts to your account. Adjusting, you would just simply click on one of these pencil icons. And once you're inside the application or inside of the contact record, you have the ability to adjust the roles or the name or the title. And you would just simply, for the access to the portal, you'll click on the left drop down or pick list, and then you can select the different roles in here. So as Sue mentioned earlier, we do have different roles within inside of the portal. We have the SSBCI account administrator, which is the most restrictive and it allows you to view and download. We have the account POC, which is a little less restrictive, and it gives you view, download, and you're also able to upload your completed quarterly report. And then we have the authorized representative, which is the least restrictive, This one can do everything. This one can view, download, upload, and this is the only one that's allowed to submit your quarterly report on behalf of your organization. And it also, as Sue has mentioned, this role for authorized representative is not the same role as the authorized official on your application. This is only a role for portal access. One new feature that we did add is we do have a communications role designee area. So if you want someone to have communications about your different programs, and we are talking about capital, so you can select the capital reporting if you want this new person to have communications regarding capital. If they also have TA responsibilities or SBOT responsibilities, you can select all three of those and add those as communication roles. And again, this will allow that person to receive communications regarding their different programs. That is for editing. It is very similar for adding a new contact. It's the dark blue tab where you can click on that. And similar to the editing, you will come in here and you add information for your name, last name, title, email, and then you can select your different roles that you would like to have for that individual. Once you have added those roles or that individual or updated, then that information will show in your account. And then that will let you know that that person now is either able to manipulate the portal or is now able to have some communications regarding the different programs. I'm going to take a jump back, and what you can typically do is just close that out, and then you're back to your quarterly report window. So this was section 2, and that was everything that's inside of section 2. And then we're going to move over now to section 3, which is going to be the Excel upload area. In this section, this is where you would have a downloadable template for your quarterly report. And then once you've downloaded that template and you've updated everything and everything is ready for you to submit, you will come over to this upload files dialog box and you will click that. And then your Explorer is going to open up. And then you can click on that and you can click open, and then it's going to add that file to the quarterly report. One thing to note is while this uploads, in the top right, you still see a status is not started. Once this file is finished uploading, you're going to get a dark blue done button. You click that, and then you will see that file uploaded to this table. And one thing just want to let you be aware of, don't be alarmed when you see final in front of it. That is just something that we append as a prefix to your quarterly report that you just uploaded. Also, once this table is populated, you will see that your status in the widget turned to draft. Next, we move over to the certification and submission page. In the certification and submission page, we just ask that you read all the information here regarding the quarterly report and submission. And then we have the blue box down here where you're able to submit your quarterly report. One piece of advice is I would copy the name here, paste it into the white box over here. And I say that because this area is both case and space sensitive. If you notice, I dropped that to a lowercase s, and if I click certified submit, it should give me an error that the submission error message that it was not submitted. So we go back and again, put that capital S, and again, I will just copy the name here, paste it here, and then you can click certified submit, and then you should see a green success banner come across top. And then you should also see your status, click to submit it within inside of the widget. Now that you're inside of the deadline window, you do have the ability to unsubmit your report. If you realize before the deadline that you've made an error or you uploaded a different copy or you had some information that you needed to change, you'll come down here and click unsubmit report. When you click that, it's going to give you a confirmation window where you click unsubmit again. And it's going to drop you back to section 3. And you notice that the table has deleted the previously updated quarterly report. So we're going to upload that again. We'll click upload files. We'll click the blank template, or that's my name here. But you click up and add your quarterly report here. Click open. That table is going to populate. Once it's done, turns blue. I'm going to click done. And you'll see the report down in the table. Again, come to certification and submission. We're going to copy this here. I'm going to paste that there, and we're going to click certify and submit. At this point, you are done with the quarterly report submission. You'll notice that this draft says stayed draft. What I always do is just hit recycle page, and then you should see a change in the status. And you'll see the status now is submitted. So that is the quarterly report submission for the standing compliant transactions. I'm going to back up a little bit, and now we're going to take a look at the modified or potential non-compliant issues submission for the quarterly report. So it dropped me down to the main page. We're going to click on SSBCI program. We're going to navigate to capital program reports. It's going to default land you to quarterly reports. And you're going to find your quarterly report that you would like to submit for the non-compliant or potential non-compliant issues. And this is something that's flagged on our end where we have to take a look at your quarterly report, and then we put a flag inside, and then compliance will let you guys know if there are a need for you to submit your modified potentially non-compliant issues quarterly report. If that has happened, you will see that here. You will come over to the blue pencil again, and you'll click on there. And the first thing that I notice is that section 4 has changed, and it says modified certification and submission page. So real quickly, again, we have the left-hand navigation. We have the navigation on the bottom. We have our widget over here that gives your status, jurisdiction, reporting period, and deadline. Moving over to section 2, same as the standard compliant transactions, you have the implementing entity information. Again, if this is incorrect, please let us know. And you also have the contacts area where you're able to edit or add new contacts for portal access and for communication. I'm moving pretty quickly because this is exactly as the compliant transaction submission. In section 3, again, is where you can upload your quarterly report. Click it, hit open. You'll see the blue done, and then you'll see it populate inside of the table. Next, we move over to section 4. This is going to be a little different. In section 4, we have information about the modified certification and submission process. We ask you that you read everything here. And if you scroll down just a little bit, we're going to have attachment A, which gives an example of the information or a form that you can fill in for the modified or potentially non-compliant issues. You click that, download that, and you can fill out that information. And once you have that information saved and ready to upload, you come to the upload files area, you click on that, and you find the file for your modified or non-compliant issues. Hit done. That's going to upload that. The table is going to populate again. And once that table is populated, you'll also notice that we prepend or we put a prefix on there as AA cert. So don't be alarmed when you see that in front of the name that you have saved your file as. Once you have that uploaded on this page, we scroll down just a little further. And again, copy your name here, paste it in this box here, and click certify and submit. And you'll see a green success button, and you'll see a green submitted button. Similarly to the standard and compliant transaction quarterly report submission, while inside of the reporting window, you do have the ability to unsubmit, and that is by clicking the unsubmit report button, confirming your intention. You'll see it go back to draft, and it's dropping you back to section 3, where you can, again, upload any corrections. Wait for this to turn to blue. We'll wait for this to populate the table. Move over to section 4. And same thing, we're going to upload the potential non-compliant issues document or PDF or Word or Excel. Upload that there. We're waiting for the blue done, and we see it. So we click blue done. We're going to copy a name, and we're going to paste it into here and click certify and submit. You'll see a green success, and we're going to recycle the page to make sure that we see a green success in the widget. And this lets you know that you are finished uploading. That is it for the demo. I am going to pass it over to Raisa.
Thank you, Jay. Appreciate it. All right, so for this portion, we have something a little bit interactive. Those of you who have attended previous quarterly trainings know about our fun polls that we do. And those of you who attended the last quarterly training might remember that someone sent me a message saying that our questions were too easy. So I didn't make these questions hard, but they will be a little bit more involved than usual. So let's get started. All right, question 1. Let me know when you guys can see it. All right, so jurisdictions would submit a modified certification for Q4 if the jurisdiction identified a non-compliant transaction in October, which is Q4, received conditional approval from Treasury in November, also Q4, and replenished the SSBCI account and provided documentation and certification in December, Q4. If the whole unenrollment was wrapped up in Q4, would they need to submit a modified certification? Okay, answers are coming in. Awesome. All right. Okay, we're coming in. Looks like you guys are gonna learn something. Okay, I'm gonna end the poll in about 10 seconds. All right, ending the poll. And here are the results. The answer is false. Because the unenrollment process was completed in Q4, the jurisdiction is not required to use the modified certification on the use of funds when submitting their quarterly report. A completed unenrollment process includes the conditional approval from Treasury to unenroll the non-compliant transaction and the documentation. So once that's complete, that's the end of the road. You'll only need to submit the modified certification if it goes into another reporting period. All right, you guys asked for this. All right, question number 2. Here we go. Uh-oh. Oh, I see. Stop sharing that one and go on to question 2. Okay, question 2. A jurisdiction received a principal repayment of $100,000 and interest payment of $10,000 in Q4. The jurisdiction recycled $50,000 of the $100,000 at the end of Q4. How should it be reported on the Q4 quarterly report? So there are a few options here. A, the jurisdiction would report $10,000 of program income and $100,000 in recycled funds. B, the jurisdiction would report $10,000 of program income only. Or C, the jurisdiction would report $10,000 of program income and $50,000 in recycled funds. So think back to the recycled funds slide. And what is the definition of recycled funds? I'll give you guys a little bit more time on this one. Okay, looking good. All right, just about 10 more seconds. All right, gonna go ahead and end the poll. And the results. You guys are correct. The answer is C. The jurisdiction would report $10,000 of program income and $50,000. Even though they received the principal repayment of $100,000, they only actually recycled $50,000. So that would be reported as recycled. So SSBCI funds are only considered recycled once the funds are recycled into new loan or investments. So you should not report the return of invested capital until redeployment. Okay, good. Question 3. All right, once the quarterly report has been certified and submitted via the SSBCI portal, jurisdictions may unsubmit during the submission window. Bit of a brain break here. All right, is it true or false? You can unsubmit during the submission window. Okay, 10 more seconds here. All right, getting ahead and end the poll and share the results. Yep, the answer is true. The participating jurisdictions have the option to update and resubmit quarterly reports until the submission deadline. So for this quarter, up until January 30th, let's say you submit your quarterly report today after this training, you can still make changes up until January 30th by unsubmitting in the portal. Right, awesome. We have question number 4. Brain break over. Jurisdiction Z reported program income of $500,000 as of Q3 2024. During Q4, the jurisdiction earned interest on idle funds of $250,000 and incurred administrative expenses of $300,000. The jurisdiction used $50,000 of program income to pay administrative expenses. How should the jurisdiction report program income and administrative expenses for the current quarter? Should A, the jurisdiction would report $500,000 in program income, no adjustment, and $50,000 in administrative expenses? B, would the jurisdiction report $500,000 in program income, a $50,000 adjustment, reduction, and no administrative expenses? Or C, should the jurisdiction report $250,000 in program income with a corresponding adjustment or reduction of $50,000, $300,000 in administrative costs with a corresponding adjustment reduction of $50,000. So how would this be reported? Okay, looking good, but a little less participation. Just give it a shot. Don't be shy. Okay, A, B, or C? Okay, got 10 more seconds. Thank you guys again for participating. Okay, gonna go ahead and end the poll. And you guys got it correct. The answer here is C. So for this particular example, the jurisdiction would report $250,000 in program income, and they would make an adjustment for the $50,000 in program income, $50,000 in admin. Yeah, the $50,000 in admin. All right, perfect. So again, make sure that you have appropriate program income to use before you do any offset. And also a reminder again, that if you use administrative expenses to offset program income, you cannot report that administrative expense. It won't be counted towards your EOT requirement for your subsequent tranche. Okay, stop share. And our last question, question 5. What type of funds should be reported on the quarterly report? A, SSBCI funds and private capital. B, only SSBCI funds. Or C, SSBCI funds, private capital, and any other financing. So what are you reporting on the quarterly report? Is it A, B, or C? Okay, we'll do about 10 more seconds here. Okay, looking good. All right, gonna end the poll. That is correct. B, only SSBCI funds. So the only expenses allowed to be reported in the program cost field are loans, investments, and funds to be used for services to portfolio companies. So we're only looking for SSBCI funds on the quarterly report. No other funds should be included on this quarterly report. Okay, just as a reminder, it's only SSBCI funds. Okay, that is all for me. I am going to go ahead and stop sharing and turn it back over to Mayma. Thank you.
Thank you, Raisa. Thank you so much. Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Jay, and thank you, Sue. I know we've received some questions in the chat, but please feel free to come off mute. We will include, again, we will provide a slide and the training and the recording material. in our portal, but first we will share the deck with everyone. Just want to highlight our resources. Like Raisa, Sue, and Grace highlighted, we do have an updated reporting guidance. So this is linked on this slide. So please feel free to access that if you have not, and let us know if you have any questions. Always, we will recommend that folks refer to our national compliance standards. It outlines best practices to ensure your transactions are in compliance. And as a reminder, if you do have a non-compliant transaction that you have not closed out, like Raisa and Sue highlighted, please make sure that you are submitting a modified search following the example that Jay demonstrated during his presentation. And if you have other questions, we do have a FAQ we update frequently. So I think we made our last update sometime last year. So if you haven't seen those updates, please reference the FAQs as well. And everything is available on our website, so you don't have to wait for the deck to go out. And if you are for administrative costs, just to make sure that you understand the difference between direct and indirect costs and what's allowable for to CFR, please also reference that. Just as a reminder, like Sue said, when you're reporting for your disbursement request, if you use program income to pay for or to cover any admin costs, please don't report that cost, that associated cost, as to attribute to your 80%. We will pull that back. And just as a reminder, why I have this time, if you want to cut me off, come off mute or put your hands in the air. But I just want to say, if you're approaching 80%, please let us know in advance. You don't have to get to 80%. We are offering early data review. So if you feel you are 50, 60, approaching your 80%, ping us through your OM, send us a completed disbursement template, which is available in the same portal that Jay demonstrated. Please access your template and start completing the transaction. Send us your report, your early transaction input, even if it's just at 50. We will review your data, give you some good input. So when you come in early, when you are ready, you will be in a better place. So I will stop talking. I did get a question from Lynn. Jay, while you're on this call, Lynn Flinch, apologies. I'm not sure which jurisdiction, Lynn, you were with, but Lynn is saying she cannot see her report in her portal. So Lynn, feel free to either drop or DM to Jay, or Jay, maybe you're off mute, you can help Lynn on that with that.
Yeah, actually, I have two quick ones, and both of them should be cured. Lynn, you should be good to go. I had to change over a login conduit to CARES Act. If you have a chance, try to give it a shot logging in. Also, I have a DM from Lynn Fetch. I just went in, Lynn, and I adjusted your roles, and you should be able to log in with that ID.me email we were just talking about. Looks like Teresa is good. She just sent me a direct message. But Lynn, could you also give it a try? And I see that you also had Kenda Simpa is having the same issues. I'll give that a shot right now. Maybe we'll be online for a minute. I'll work that in the background if there are any other questions maybe that you wanted to address.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Jay. I don't think I have anything on my end. Grace or Sue or Raisa, I don't know if you have anything for Jay on the portal side. Again, we really appreciate everyone's time. The portal is open for submission, and I'm seeing some folks already submitting. If you need to hop on a call, let us know. Like Sue highlighted, please don't submit if you have any red flags in your template. And for those that do not have any actual transaction activity, make sure that you're reporting any accrued interest, even if it's from a previous quarter, and just add an explanation. I think Sue highlighted that. I think Sue, you came on camera. Do you want to add anything? You're on mute, Sue.
Oh, no, I don't have nothing else to add. Just want to make sure, it's available for you guys.
Perfect. Yep, we're happy to help and hop on a call. Just as a reminder, the window is open till 11:59 p.m. our time. So just let us know if you need anything. Grace, anything from you or Raisa? or Jay?
Nope, I didn't get any questions.
Maybe, yes, just one last thing. Lynn Kenda should be good as well. If you can have her try, if you're still online, have her try, and that she should be good. If not, just send something over to the SSBCI_information at treasury.gov, and we'll make sure that we get that taken care of as quick as possible. But she should be good. I saw the exact same issue. She had a different ID.me email address and associated to your jurisdiction account. So just let me know.
Jonathan,
sorry,
this is Kenda. I am okay. I can access everything.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry, Sue.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, if your jurisdictions are not required to report for this quarter, the templates will not be available to you. So just want to point that out as well.
We are. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for your help.
Yep.
Yes, thank you. And just again, we want to plug our upcoming annual reporting training on January 27th. The templates, all those templates are available in the portal. If you have any questions as you go through your transactions, we do have office hours we're offering. So just work through with your outreach manager, but I believe those notifications should be going out at some point this month. We're happy to work you through that process to make sure that you don't have to repeat any lot of meetings from us from last year. And we do appreciate your patience and your support through all this process. I'm happy to give everybody 11 minutes back. Thank you so much on the SSBCI team. I appreciate everybody's support, even for the folks that travel to make sure that they were here for this call. So thank you so much, team. Appreciate the effort. Talk to everybody later. Thank you.